All right, welcome back, guys, to the podcast. And now we have the topic of the week for you. So we got a really interesting topic this week, basically to do with Xbox and its Game Pass initiative. And they've had this for a couple of months. Actually, before we get into this, Patrick, why don't you explain to the people what Xbox Game Pass is exactly?
Well, Xbox have introduced more of an idea where you can pay a monthly subscription fee. And when you pay this monthly subscription fee, you're going to be able to play all these old games. I was about to say old ass games, but old games that you may have previously missed. And to be fair, they are quality games, some of them. And also on top of that, you will be able to play online pretty much all the time. And that's going to come to what, $10?
Yeah. $10 a month, and there's a library of just over 100 games, and you can download them and play them whenever you like.
Yeah.
As long as you're subscribed.
So it's a good deal, but my only problem is that how many games of these are you going to be playing?
Yeah,
that's my only problem.
Well, before we even get into that, let's address the aspect of Game Pass that facilitated creating this topic of the week. That Microsoft announced a couple of weeks ago that they will be releasing all their first-party games day and date with retail and digital stores on Game Pass. So you're talking about games like Sea of Thieves, State of Decay 2, Crackdown 3. Microsoft has said future Halos and Gears of War and Forza will release on Game Pass the day it's out to the rest of the world. Yeah. So that's a really, really like crazy game-changing thing to happen in the industry. So with all those games releasing on Game Pass, it's pretty much like an industry-shaking move, if you understand what I mean, that Microsoft is willing to put all its first party on the service and tell you $10 a month, play the new Halo, beat the campaign, and if you're fine with it, you can unsubscribe the following month. I mean, that's pretty crazy, but obviously the hope is that they incur more subscribers as time goes on.
Yeah, of course.
But it's pretty crazy that they would do something like this.
I mean, it is a direction that I think Microsoft should be making. I mean, you have to think of new ways of you. I mean, we're over the whole Xbox versus PS4 argument. But then the fact is that they had to come up with an idea that would increase sales, and even though all the best games were not necessarily Xbox exclusive, that they had to generate money. And I respect the idea that they're coming from, but my only problem is that the amount of games that are coming out, which in all fairness is a huge library, but how many of those games can you play when you're paying that $10? How many games are you personally going to play?
Yeah, time-wise, I guess. But, I mean, it's always nice to give consumers options.
And I'm not taking anything away from Xbox. They are going to be releasing really good games coming out on Xbox. Well, yeah.
On
Xbox.
Game Pass. But,
yeah, exactly.
But
how many of those are you going to be... How much of that is trash? That's what I'm asking you.
Yeah.
How much?
Is Crackdown 3, for example, gonna pull in that many people?
Yeah,
At the same time, I would argue that, like, for $10 a month, someone who is never gonna spend the $60 to buy Crackdown would now look at it and think, for 10 I can try this out and give it a go. And then even with Sea of Thieves might be a hard sell at $60, but you tell someone they can play it for 10 for a month and get a feel out of it. I mean, I think
maybe
that's
you
like
play Bionic Commando.
Is that one of the games on Game Pass?
Yeah, it's one of them. It's one of them. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm throwing it out there.
Yeah, someone out there likes Bionic Commando. Someone out there is into, Hex
Comic Jumper.
I mean, Sega Vintage Collection. I mean, there's some like kind of like games there that you wouldn't bother even thinking about or give the time of day. But I think we have to kind of give the service a chance to grow and that sort of thing. And let's see what third parties, because for me, Microsoft are not consistent enough with their first-party releases for this to be truly a compelling service. Because you imagine someone like Nintendo did this. I mean, it's game over. I mean, you're telling someone they can play Odyssey.
You're
for
gonna
10
have
bucks a
Super
month.
Mario in Africa,
Yeah.
Super Mario in Asia.
Exactly. So Microsoft's thing is, I personally don't feel they have the first party studio capability. But if they can marry that with the third parties, with your EAs and your Activisions, and you're saying something like, all right, Anthem just came out, 3 months later it's on Game Pass, and then on top of that you have all the Xbox exclusives, and then before you know it, you're building out this big library of games that turns into a compelling proposition for an Xbox gamer or a potential Xbox gamer. So I think it's a bit too early for us to be like making truly definitive statements on how this whole thing is going to shake out. It's fascinating. It's completely fascinating.
It's a bold move.
It's very bold because Microsoft is essentially chucking actual sales out the window and saying sales don't matter anymore. You know what I mean? They're more focused on subscribers. So that's an interesting way that they're kind of moving forward. But again, we need to see how that shakes out. Yeah.
We need to see how it goes.
So I don't know. You want to give some like closing thoughts on like the whole Xbox Game Pass?
Well,
thing,
to be
really?
fair,
What
when
if
it comes,
it's targeting the old market, like how you used to have your old blockbuster games that aren't getting bought anymore, and they're literally targeting that market more.
the old market is a little bit limited.
It's fair. It also depends on how much these publishers are being paid for putting their games on the service. Like we will never know that, but what is the royalty cut? You know, because they're not getting a cut of subscriber numbers. They're probably being paid up front by Microsoft to put their game on
And
the
don't
service.
forget that,
So-
producing these games also costs money. Whether it's an old game or a new game,
Yeah.
it costs money. How much
Yeah.
is everybody getting a cut from these games that are being released? And how much does Microsoft have to spare?
Yeah. So like I like what Michael's thinking in terms of it being the blockbuster of games, but the models aren't completely compatible between old movies on a shelf VCR with like you actually having to pay royalties to these developers who are signing up to put their games on the service. So the model is quite different. The profitability margins are going to
And
be
people
different.
forget that the video game industry is also not black and white in the sense that, well, I mean, the movie industry and the music industry is not black and white, but the video game industry is very wild, wild west.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you don't know what
People are always
transaction-
throwing at a wall and seeing what
it's
sticks.
insane. It's insane.
Sorry, no swearing, but
yeah. Yeah, but essentially my point is that it's very difficult for Microsoft's standpoint and where they are going to try and find the right entry to try and make sales come through, to try and make money, and whether or not they are competing with PlayStation, it's still going to be very difficult for them to get some sort of a footing.
Yeah.
But this is a step forward.
No, I think you said it perfectly, and I
Step
think that's
forward.
like a perfect place to wrap up this topic of the week. Guys, tell us what you think about the new Xbox Pass Game Pass initiative. Are you excited? Are you freaked out? We didn't even get into the aspect about single player games and how this affects them. You know, let us know how you think in the comments below. But definitely join us for our final segment after this, which is what we've been playing. Thanks for tuning in, guys.